Okay, why don't we go ahead and remember we got a little bit of a process to go through since we cannot be together. So we'll start with a board member roll call, and I'll just please indicate if you're present. Robert Clay, not yet. Dot,
Present.
Ethel,
Present.
Steve is present. Kendall,
Here.
Judson,
Here.
Lewis,
Yes. Here.
Lisa, and Mary Carmen.
Present.
Okay, so we've got a quorum here. Now we're going to ask the Uptown staff to please.
This is Lisa.
Oh, hi, Lisa.
I've joined the conference.
I'm
Wonderful.
so sorry.
No worries at all. Your timing's perfect. Okay, now it's all right. The Uptown staff would please identify themselves out loud.
Andrew Jarridge.
Stephen Wood.
Betsy Kirkgard.
Stephen.
Amy Escalante.
Shannon Daniels. Nat Wanisorn.
Bob Ethington.
John Breeding.
Delia Miswa.
That's all.
Is that everybody from the Uptown staff is on the call?
Yes, sir.
PR person, Martin.
Okay, well, we're getting there. So now for any other members of the public or other people who are involved, if you would please identify yourselves.
This is Steve Doan. I'm in the Uptown boardroom here. I've been the project administrator for the Central Connector project.
Right.
Marta, this is where you announce.
Oh, Marta Frederick, Fancy Ware Public Relations.
Thank you.
Margaret Dunlap.
Ramesh Gunda.
Has joined the conference.
This is Margaret Dunlap with Metro.
Thank you.
Monica Espadura with Binkley and Barfield.
Okay.
Cornell Emanuel, ABHR.
Sarah Newbury, Kinder Foundation.
Any other folks who have not yet identified yourself, please do so.
Ramesh Gunda with the Gunda Corporation.
Right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so again, as we've done in the past, if you wish to speak, please say your name first so we'll know who's talking. And if you're not speaking, please mute your phone so we can try to have as much clarity as we possibly can. So the first thing that we're going to do, this is for Reinvestment Zone 16, is we need a motion to approve the minutes from the June 24th, 2020 meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I make a motion to approve Lisa Simon.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have a second?
Dot Cunningham.
Thank you, Dot. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Right. The motion passes. Thank you. Now we're going to suspend Reinvestment Zone number 16, and we are going to call to order Uptown Development Authority meeting. And again, please bear with me. We're going to go through the same process again in terms of the roll call. Robert Clay. Dodd Cunningham.
Present.
Ethel Johnson.
Present.
Steve Lerner is present. Kendall Miller.
Present.
Judson Robinson.
Here.
Louis Sklar.
Present.
Lisa Simon.
Present.
Mary Carmen Tamez.
Present.
Okay, terrific. So now if we can ask the Uptown staff to identify themselves, please.
Andrew Jarridge.
Stephen Wood.
Betsy Kirkgard.
Amy Escalante. Shannon Daniels, Nat Bunny Sorn,
Bob Ethington.
John Breeding.
Delia Miswa.
Okay. Now, if we could have any members of the public identify themselves, please.
Steve Doan.
Margaret Dunlap with Metro. Marta
Ramesh
Frederick,
Gunda with the
DPW.
Gunda Corporation.
Monica Espadua, Binkley and Barfield.
Erin Avery, Kinder Foundation.
Manuel Emmanuel A. Beza.
Okay, any other members of the public, please identify yourself at this time. Okay. Now, if there's anyone from the public who wishes to make any comments at this time, please speak up. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is approval of the minutes of the June 24, 2020 meeting. I'd like to request a motion to approve those minutes, please.
Mary Carmen, I so motion.
Okay, second.
Louis Barr, second.
Thank you, Louis. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item is to consider the approval of change order number 4 with Tellefson Builders LP for the Memorial Park Central Connector project, which is, I think, on page 4 of the UDA board book. And I'm going to turn it over to John Breeding and Andrew Jerich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we're going to have Andrew take us through. And as we go through, if you have any questions, just let us know. We'll attempt to respond. Also here on staff would be, or actually here in the conference room is Steve Dunn, who's been the project administrator as well. And between the three of us, we'll attempt to answer any of your questions. Before I turn it over to Andrew, I think I'll turn it over to Andrew right here. I'm not even gonna get started because I can't figure out how to get out.
No problem. Thank y'all for indulging us on this hot summer Houston day here, and then the cool Santa Fe breezes. The original construction cost estimate, we're on page 1 of the blue book. Go ahead.
Page 4.
Page 4 of the construction cost budget. The original budget was $54 million. We reported a potential budget in June of $54.2 million. And now we're going to propose a final budget for construction of $54.7 million. And the reason for the $500,000 increase was because the standards committee had asked us to look at adding some more tasteful lighting armatures. So that's the additional $500,000 you're seeing there. I'm turning to the next page. Any questions on that page? So the next page I'm on are soft costs. Okay. Soft costs are tracking at 10.8 million. We may have about 300,000 of contingency or leftover funds there. So we're looking very good on soft cost. And then what we're looking for here is approval on the construction cost on this change order 4. And that's the 54.7 million you'll see there. And owner PM cost to MPC of 1.2 million. And then the owner contingency that's outside of the GMP or all the approvals at this meeting are 3.7 million. So our total is 70.4 million, 40.4 million from MPC funding and 30 million from UDA funding is where we're. Any questions there?
Andrew,
Yes, sir.
Andrew, has the $70,400,000 total number changed?
No, sir. That number stays the same.
Okay.
We did
So
have-
am I correct in thinking that when we made these additions to the construction costs, we reduced the contingency, but that the project is virtually completely bought out, and you all feel that you still have substantially sufficient funds in the owner contingency in addition to the $1.9 million contingency that's within the Tellefson number? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. You're very correct. We
Okay.
have
Andrew will get to that in a moment, but on page 9 is a discussion on the contingency.
that's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, really, my point was that our total budget has not, the $70 million number has not changed.
That number has not changed.
Okay, great, thank you.
So going to the next page, we've got 2 budget explanations. The first one shows the CCP construction cost of $52 million plus the owner furnished items with a total of $54.7.
And that is what we're showing as a construction budget.
That's right.
Okay.
So that's how it matches up with the 54.7 that we were tracking on the first page of the presentation. Then the second total is what we're asking for the guaranteed maximum price for Tellefson and the contract, which is the 53.5 number. The parking lot number is 100% funded by MPC, and that'll be on the next slide. So it's outside, so it's a little complicated.
There is a difference between the construction budget for the project and for the GMP.
That's right.
And the reason why is that there are certain funds that we're going to spend for the project, about $2 million, $2.3 million, that are outside of the Tellefson, and therefore actually Tellefson doesn't get to charge us, and
That's
a 15% surcharge on top of that. And so that's why these numbers are different. And as we get to the action item today, I want to make sure you sort of understand the construction budget of 54.7 versus what we will be essentially awarding to Tellefson as a GMP of 53.5.
That's correct. Any questions on that? So moving to the next page, the funding slide, the split stays 57-43 for the central connector and for the owner furnished items. And then the parking lot is the outlier. It's 100% funded by MPC. So they'll send funds through UDA to pay for it. So that's kind of your outlier on the project.
But I think the key thing here is to note what MPC's commitment of $32.5 million is versus the UDA's commitment of $23.3 to the project.
Correct. Next slide is on the commitment of funding, and basically we put this slide in here to say that both MPC and UDA via the tri-party MOU and the upcoming CIP process are funded and ready to go. And then on the contingency slide, we've got the planned contingency of $470,000, which is for any details or problems with the drawings. And then construction contingency, $1.4 million. Those first 2 contingencies are inside the GMP. And then the last contingency is the owner's contingency, which is outside of the GMP. They're all controlled by the owners. Any questions on contingencies? Good. And then the key milestones, we hope to, or we will, mobilize in August, and then we'll be moving rapidly over the next 26 months to a completion date, August, September of 2022. Any other questions on schedule? And I'm going to turn this over to Steve Down to go through. He's been driving our MDDB.
WDB, which is why I've been driving
I was
it,
about to say, yeah, that's why he's driving.
so I can spell it.
Well, just reading it off the slide is not a bad one.
So on the MWDBE, John has been pushing us very hard to achieve what we can achieve. The message we've been getting from John is to show leadership, work with Telepson to really push this as far as we can, and to have UDA be seen to be pushing it is very important, but to actually achieve what we can achieve. We started off, slide 11, with some of the steps we've taken. Started with an industry day a year ago. We reached out to various organizations at that time. It was publicly advertised. We wanted, at that time, CMARs to come in the room and hear about the project, but also we wanted anybody who had the right skills and the right trade to come and meet partners and potential partners. When Telepson came on board, at our instruction, they had an independent advisor who helped them do outreach to other organizations, which I've listed there below. And all those organizations were given information packs about the project, which they in turn shared with their members. So there was a lot of outreach. So just jumping to slide 12, we wanted to just touch on some of the leadership, some of the activity that we've done behind the scenes and directly with Telepson, who have been great partners in this. Tricon Precast were the lowest bid on the concrete, has been previously reported. They are an MBE firm. They did not immediately meet all the pre-qualification criteria, some of the financial criteria. There was some concerns. Telepson, with our support, helped them in obtaining a performance and payment bond. It wasn't automatic, that we had to go to a few firms to get that done. We actually authorized some additional oversight by Telepson so they could work closely with Tricon to make sure that things were running smoothly, which to date they are, by the way, running very smoothly. We did accept a short delay in the project while we resolved some of the issues here. And from UDA's point of view, Andrew did direct outreach to the owner of Tricon. We actually went to their yard. A number of us that are in this room went to visit them and kick the tires, as it were, and get comfortable. So we were very proactive on bringing Tricon on board. There's one other bullet on electrical, but there's a lot of other things still going on. We've got potential to bring in another electrical subcontractor as a tier 2. We're working hard with Telepson to get that done. We have opportunities still on utilities to bring in MWDBE participation. We're talking to Shooter and Lindsay, the landscape firm, who have been selected. We feel that they can provide more participation. So we are pushing it, and to use John's term, we are leading it. We're pushing very hard. Slide 13 is a summary of the first tier subcontractors. These are the subcontractors that have contracts directly with Telepson. Holes Inc. is a very small amount, but they are interestingly, they're cutting up Memorial Drive that will then be reused for the giant stair, which has a nice sustainability story. Tricon being the largest participant with first tier. Jumping to slide 14, you see tier 2 subcontractors. We're still working on another electrical over and above what you see there. Number 2, second on the list, interestingly, Flovera is the owner of Tricon's son, and he does foundation work, but we've checked that out. It's valid, and we're getting good feedback at the moment on their performance to date. Raytech have really stepped up for us. They've won the roadway subcontract, and they brought 4 firms with them. That I think comes to somewhere around 25-30% of the total of Raytech's contracts. So they've been good partners, and they brought partners with them. So I think that's a nice storyline. Where we are today on slide 15 is that the goal per the contract was 20%. We're sitting currently at 25.6% participation. I would like to believe that we're going to get a lot closer to 30% with some of the work we're doing to bring others to the table on this over the coming week before subcontracts get signed.
So if I could, the sort of the wrap up here, the last sheet, sort of lay all of this out. If you will remember when we awarded this contract to Tillotson, we actually, all they asked for was $20,000 to get us to this point. And I think they've earned their $20,000 to say the least. Then we had change order number 1, another change order number 2, and then a change order that we did at our June board meeting. And then we bring this, what we're calling a change order. It's the allocation of the funds of $52.3 million. This brings the total of the guaranteed max price contract with Tillotson to $53,528,947. If you turn over to page, go ahead. Okay, I thought I heard a question.
No, you just heard a correction, not 53,000.
53 million.
What did I say? 53?
That's right.
That was wishful aspiration.
Freudian slip.
Millions, thousands. All right. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. On page 17 is again sort of a build-up of this, where you see that the change order is $52,311,000, and all of that then becomes the guaranteed max price for the contract of $53,528. We recaptured the amount that the UDA would be responsible for, and the amount MPC would be responsible for. On the last page on 18, it's sort of, if you ever want to go through and kind of figure out where the funds are being spent, et cetera, that's sort of a more detailed breakdown of the guarantee max price contract that we have with Tillotson and where those funds will be expended. Mr. Chairman, if possible, we'd like to answer any questions anyone might have, but we hope that we could have a motion to approve the change order number 4 and enter into the, we've already entered into the contract, but place into the contract a guaranteed max price of $53,528,947.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Or any discussion?
Yes, I do have, this is Lewis, and I do have one question, and that is, when a request for payment is issued by Tillotson or anyone else, to whom actually does that request go, and A, and B, is the check or wire transfer written 42.61% to the UDA and 57.39% to the MPC? In other words, are we parallel from the very beginning, or is there some other way payment is handled?
It is essentially, first of all, the holder of the contract is the Uptown Development Authority. Those invoices come to us. They were reviewed by MPC and approved, and reviewed by us and approved. We then receive the funds from the MPC, and when we have that, we do issue the check to the contractor. It is a 40. There's two exceptions to what I would say. It is a 5743 breakout, but if it is billed for the parking lot, that will be 100% paid for by MPC. And so, Lewis, it is not more intricate are more detailed about maybe the district buying more of one thing or MPC buying more of anything. It is basically we are partners in the project, and we issue a payment that's basically 5743 other than the parking lot.
And neither entity is carrying the other. I guess is really my point that payments are made, and the appropriate shares are made all at the same time.
That's correct. We don't write a check. We don't write a check until we've received their funds, and we don't write a check until both parties have reviewed the invoice and approved it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
Could y'all expand a little bit more about the PMP bond, how that was done when you talk about expanding the effort? Can you walk me through what that was like and what was different about this effort versus maybe what we've done in the past?
Okay.
So let me pick up on that. I was in the middle of it. To be candid, the first bonding company refused to furnish a bond. There was a delay. There was an awkward moment, and at the end of the day, in talking with Tellefson and their financial people, we helped source the bonding company for Tricon that were willing to go finance the bond. Part of that was to give Tellefson some extra funds to provide oversight, and the bonding company asked for that. So Tellefson did the heavy lifting on getting this done. We worked with Tellefson to make sure it happened, but it really emanated from the original bonding company refusing to raise a bond. Some of that, if I can just add, was probably the moment in time with COVID arriving and a lot of nervousness. So it wasn't all to do with their financial position, but that was the issue.
Judson, if I might add to that, what we had with Tricon was that we had a minority firm issue a very good, very competitive bid. I think the number was $1.3 million better than any. I'm getting a different, but a significant. Was it Steve and Andrew?
Closing into $3.
Is it closer to $3 million better than anybody else?
Yep.
And so I think we had questions about that, and vetting a bid is very important. And so what first thing Tellefson did was, if in fact, was this a good bid? In other words, did Tellefson think and staff think that the bid, which was maybe $3 million better than anybody else, was it a valid bid? Could it be built for that? And the answer to that was yes. The second question that we asked was, is this firm capable of producing a quality product no matter what? Literally through Andrew's effort and others, we went up and, to our surprise, very significant facility. Probably, how many was it? Was it 55 acres or something? He has an enormous spot up off the Hardy Toll Road. They produce a lot of the retaining walls for the Texas Department of Transportation. We put our hands on finished product. We saw their process, and it sort of answered two questions then. One, it's a good bid. Two, they're capable. And I think that what we found is that perhaps because they're a smaller firm, that their administrative ability to respond, and then we actually contacted some of the general contractors that we had on the Post Oak Boulevard project and asked them, and two of our general contractors were minority firms that graduated out of the MBE program and are now too big and too successful. And that's SER and then Greg Reyes with Raytech. And talk to them kind of one-on-one and saying, okay, I have a minority firm, what is he running into, et cetera. And one of the things that one of the general contractors told me, he says, who your salesperson or your broker is for your performance bond is very important. And if you come in and you don't buy that many performance bonds, then they don't take any risk. If you are a big firm like a Tellefson who buys a lot, and Tellefson's sitting there with their arm around the subcontractor and saying, we're in this with you, and the client says, yeah, Tellefson, actually, we probably spent $100,000 more on Tellefson's management in order to the self-serving interest of getting this minority contractor approved, and oh yeah, saving $3 million. And so that was hands-on, and we've done other things. For example, in the electrical, we may have been a matchmaker to where a prime we knew of a capable, approved minority electrical company that maybe got married to a prime. And again, that's just working the system proactively all the way from the very beginning when we kind of, it's in all the contracts, et cetera. And I'll just end by saying I had a conversation with Tad Tellefson and his project manager on this before today's meeting. One of the, a handshake and here we go, guys. And my direction to them was that we still had a couple of major subcontractors in the project that weren't carrying what I think is an appropriate level of minority business, women-owned business in their contract. And that was kind of Steve Don's saying, we think we can take this number above 26 and maybe a lot closer to 30%. So that's kind of been the overall process and some of the hand-holding, some of the marriage making, and not just using a firm's less than stellar administration to kick them out, but rather trying to overcome that and find a way to include them in the process.
Well, I for one appreciate you guys' leadership and all who was involved in that process, and just trying to do as good a job as we can to not only vet, but also to try to find ways that we can push the envelope and create more opportunity. And certainly you did that in this case, and it'd be overall good for us. And the fact that we saved $3 million, but also good for all those companies that will benefit, and hopefully their family members and community members will be able to see that dollar, kind of circulate a little bit more in our economy, which is what this is all about.
And I have to say that Greg Reyes with Raytech, who has been a minority business enterprise in the past, but has been so successful that he has grown out of that. Greg, I want to give him a pat on the back because he not only graduated out of the program, but now that he's out of it, he's got about 25% of what he was won in competitive bid going into small business, minority-owned business, and women-owned business. So the system is working, and Tellefson was a big part of this. I just think everybody did a little bit of getting us there.
Yeah.
Okay? All right.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I would like to request a motion to approve change order number 4, which adjusts Tellefson Builders LP's total guarantee maximum price, the so-called GMP, contract to $53,528,947. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second, Lisa, as long as I don't have to guarantee it.
Fair enough.
There goes to me too, Lisa.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. John, I don't think we had any business other than formally going through the rest of this. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have nothing else.
Okay. So we're going to recess the Uptown Development Authority meeting. We're going to reconvene the Reinvestment Zone number 16 meeting, and then we're going to adjourn Reinvestment Zone number 16 City of Houston meeting.